The journey begins, finding your voice in English. Learning a new language is like embarking on an exciting, sometimes challenging adventure. For many, English is the chosen path, opening doors to new cultures, opportunities, and connections. This is the story of Sarah, a complete beginner who decided to take that first step, and the invaluable guidance of her teacher, Ms. Emily, who helped her find her voice. Sarah had always dreamed of being able to speak English fluently. She saw it as a bridge to the wider world, to travel more easily, understand international films and music without subtitles, and perhaps even open up new career possibilities. The only problem was, she didn't know where to start. The idea felt overwhelming. Words, grammar rules, strange sounds. It all seemed like a giant, confusing puzzle. Finally, gathering her courage, Sarah enrolled in a beginner English class at a local language school. On the first day, she walked into the classroom, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. She looked around at the other students, all seeming just as hesitant as she felt. Then, their teacher, Ms. Emily, walked in. Ms. Emily had a warm smile and a calm, encouraging presence that immediately put Sarah at ease. "Welcome, everyone," Ms. Emily began. "Learning a new language takes time and effort, but it is also incredibly rewarding. We will start with the basics, and together, we will build your skills step by step. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are a natural part of the learning process." The first few weeks were indeed challenging. Sarah learned the English alphabet, basic greetings like hello, goodbye, thank you, and excuse me. She practiced simple phrases like my name is Sarah and I am from her country. Understanding the pronunciation was tricky, and remembering new words felt like trying to catch water with her hands. Seeing the initial struggle in her students, Ms. Emily dedicated time during each lesson to discuss not just what to learn, but how to learn. Her first crucial piece of advice for beginners was, consistency is key. Even if it's just 15 or 20 minutes a day, try to do something with English, Ms. Emily advised. Review vocabulary, listen to a simple song, read a short text. Regular small efforts are much more effective than studying for hours just once a week. It keeps the language fresh in your mind and helps build a habit. Sarah took this advice to heart. She started reviewing the new words from class every evening before bed. She downloaded a simple language app that offered daily practice exercises. It wasn't always easy after a long day, but she stuck with it. Slowly, she noticed the basic words and phrases becoming more familiar. As the weeks progressed, the class moved on to simple sentence structures and basic vocabulary related to everyday life, family, jobs, food, and hobbies. Sarah found grammar particularly difficult. Why did the verb change? When do you use a and an? Prepositions seemed completely random. Ms. Emily offered more guidance. Grammar can seem complicated at first, she admitted, but try to see it as the structure that helps us build clear sentences. Don't try to understand all the rules at once. We will learn them gradually. For now, focus on recognizing patterns. Read simple sentences and see how they are built. For vocabulary, Ms. Emily suggested various methods. 1. Use flashcards. Write the English word on one side and the translation, or a simple picture, on the other. Review them often. 2. Learn words in context. Don't just memorize lists. See how a word is used in a sentence. Try to create your own sentences using the new word. Third group, related words. Learn words about a topic together, e.g., all the words for fruits or furniture. Fourth, spaced repetition. Review words more often when they are new and less often as you remember them better. There are apps that can help with this. Sarah tried these methods. She made simple flashcards and reviewed them on her bus ride to work. She started writing tiny, basic sentences in a notebook, like, I eat an apple, or my house is small. It felt awkward, but it was a start. Listening was another area where Sarah felt challenged. People spoke so fast. In class, Ms. Emily spoke clearly and slowly, but understanding audio from outside the classroom, like simple videos or songs, was tough. Improving listening takes a lot of exposure, Ms. Emily explained. At your level, don't worry about understanding every single word. The goal is to catch the main idea. Start with resources designed for learners, like simplified podcasts or videos. Her advice for listening included 1. Start with simple materials, children's shows, learning English podcasts, like VOA Learning English or BBC Learning English, which have slower speeds and transcripts. 2. Listen actively. Try to identify familiar words. Can you understand who is speaking and what the general topic is? 3. Use transcripts. Listen once without reading, then listen again while reading the text. Finally, listen again without reading to see how much more you understand. 4. Listen repeatedly. Don't be afraid to listen to the same short audio clip multiple times. Sarah found a podcast for English learners and started listening to it during her commute. Initially, she understood very little. But by following Ms. Emily's advice and using the transcripts, she began to pick out more words and phrases. The speed still felt fast, but it was no longer just noise. It was slowly becoming language. Reading presented a different kind of challenge. Sarah could sound out some words, but understanding the full meaning of even a simple paragraph required a lot of effort and looking up words in a dictionary. Reading is excellent for building vocabulary and seeing how sentences are formed, Ms. Emily encouraged. Start with very simple texts or graded readers, books specifically written for English learners at different levels. Don't stop to look up every single word. Try to guess the meaning from the context. Her reading tips included 1. Choose materials at your level. If it's too difficult, you'll get discouraged. 2. Read for gist. Focus on understanding the main points first. 3. Use context clues. Look at the words around an unknown word for hints about its meaning. 4. Read things you enjoy. Find simple articles, stories, or comics that interest you. You're more likely to stick with it. Sarah found some simple online articles about travel, a topic she loved. She also bought a graded reader designed for beginners. It was slower than reading in her native language, but with practice, she could finish a short chapter and feel a sense of accomplishment. She wasn't translating word for word anymore, but trying to grasp the overall story. However, the biggest hurdle for Sarah remained speaking. In class, she could answer direct questions with simple sentences, but initiating a conversation or speaking spontaneously felt terrifying. She worried constantly about making grammar mistakes or not knowing the right words. Seeing Sarah and other students hesitate to speak, Ms. Emily dedicated several lessons to focusing specifically on spoken English. She explained that speaking is often the most intimidating skill, but also one of the most important for communication. It's completely normal to feel nervous about speaking, Ms. Emily reassured them. You are afraid of making mistakes, and that's okay. But mistakes are how we learn. Think about children learning their first language. They make lots of mistakes, but they keep talking, and that's how they improve. Ms. Emily then shared her practical strategies for improving speaking, emphasizing that the goal for beginners is communication, not perfection. 1. Start small. Talk to yourself. This might sound strange, Ms. Emily said with a smile, but it really helps. Describe your actions as you do them in simple English. I am drinking tea. I am opening the book. It gets your mouth and brain used to forming English sentences. Sarah felt silly doing this at first, but she tried it when she was alone and found it helped her recall basic verbs and vocabulary more quickly. 2. Practice pronunciation. Listen carefully to how native speakers say words and try to imitate them, Ms. Emily advised. Use online dictionaries that have audio. Pay attention to the stress in words and the rhythm of sentences. Ms. Emily also taught them about basic English sounds that were different from their native language and gave them exercises to practice these sounds. 3. Learn common phrases, not just single words. Instead of just learning hello and how are you, learn the whole exchange. Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you, and you? Ms. Emily demonstrated. Learn common phrases for different situations. Ordering food, asking for directions, introducing yourself. These are like building blocks for conversation. Sarah found this very helpful. Learning chunks of language made it easier to start speaking without having to build every sentence from scratch. 4. Find a speaking partner. This is crucial, Ms. Emily stressed. You need someone to practice with. It could be a classmate, a language exchange partner online, or even a tutor. It's important to have real conversations, even simple ones. Sarah was hesitant about this, but another student from her class, Omar, suggested they practice together after class twice a week. They agreed to meet at a cafe and try to have simple conversations using the vocabulary and grammar they had learned. 5. Use technology. There are many language apps that have speaking exercises, Ms. Emily pointed out. Some allow you to record yourself and compare your pronunciation. You can also use voice-to-text features on your phone to see if the phone understands your English. It's a simple way to check your pronunciation. Sarah started using a speaking app that gave her simple prompts, like describing a picture. Recording herself felt strange, but listening back helped her identify where she struggled. 6. Focus on fluency over accuracy, at times. When you are practicing speaking, especially in informal situations, don't worry too much about making grammar mistakes, Ms. Emily said. Your primary goal is to communicate your message. It's better to speak with mistakes than not to speak at all because you're afraid of mistakes. We can work on accuracy later. For now, prioritize getting your ideas out. This was a freeing thought for Sarah. It reduced the pressure to be perfect. 7. Prepare for simple conversations. Think about basic conversations you might have, Ms. Emily suggested. Introducing yourself, talking about your family, your job, your hobbies, your day. Practice answering and asking simple questions about these topics. The class did role-playing exercises, practicing typical conversations like meeting someone new, ordering coffee, or asking for directions. 8. Describe your world. Look around you and try to describe what you see using the English words you know, Ms. Emily instructed. Describe objects in your room, people you see, things happening around you. Keep it simple. Sarah started doing this silently in her head during her commute. describing the buildings, the weather, and the people she saw. Applying these strategies wasn't easy. Sarah's first few attempts at speaking with Omar were awkward. There were pauses, forgotten words, and fumbled sentences. But they both encouraged each other. They started with simple topics, talking about their day, their favorite foods, their weekend plans using the simple past tense they had just learned. Sarah also started consciously trying to think in English, even just simple thoughts. It felt unnatural initially, but gradually, the gap between thinking and speaking in English began to shrink. There were days when Sarah felt frustrated. She'd hear a native speaker talk effortlessly and feel like she was making no progress. She'd forget words she thought she knew, or mix up grammar rules. Ms. Emily noticed these moments of doubt in her students. "Learning a language is not a straight line upwards," she told the class. "There will be plateaus, days where you feel you aren't improving. This is normal. The most important thing is not to give up. Remember why you started." Ms. Emily emphasized the importance of celebrating small victories. "Could you introduce yourself to someone last month? Now can you also ask them about their job? That is progress. Did you understand a simple sentence in a song that you couldn't understand before? That's progress." She also encouraged them to integrate English into their hobbies. If they liked cooking, they could try following a simple recipe in English. If they liked sports, they could read simple news articles about their favorite team in English. Making English a part of their interests made the learning process more enjoyable and less like a chore. Slowly but surely, Sarah started to feel a shift. The consistent daily practice was paying off. The vocabulary stuck better. The grammar patterns became a little more intuitive. Listening was still challenging, but she could understand the main points of simpler conversations and audio, and her speaking was improving. Her conversations with Omar became less hesitant. They could talk about more varied topics. She still made mistakes, but she didn't panic about them. She would try to rephrase, or Omar would help her find the right word, and they would laugh about it. The fear of speaking began to fade, replaced by a growing confidence. One day, Sarah was at a cafe, and a tourist looked lost. Taking a deep breath, she walked over and, in simple but clear English, asked if they needed help. She was able to understand their question about directions, and using basic phrases and gestures, helped them find their way. It was a simple interaction, but for Sarah, it was a huge milestone. She had used her English in a real-life situation, and it had worked. Towards the end of the course, Sarah could engage in basic conversations about herself, her daily life, and her plans. She could understand the general idea of simple spoken English and read basic texts. She was far from fluent, but she had achieved her initial goal. She could communicate in English. Looking back on her journey, Sarah realized how crucial Ms. Emily's guidance had been. It wasn't just about teaching words and grammar. It was about providing practical tools, strategies, and encouragement. The advice, consistency, learning in context, starting small with speaking, not fearing mistakes, finding practice partners, and integrating English into her life, had made the seemingly impossible task of learning a language feel manageable and, eventually, rewarding. Sarah knew her English learning journey was far from over. There was still so much more to learn, more vocabulary, more complex grammar, nuances of pronunciation, and the ability to discuss more abstract topics. But she had built a strong foundation, and most importantly, she had found her voice. She was no longer a hesitant beginner. She was a confident learner, ready to continue her adventure in the English language. The path ahead still had challenges, but Sarah now had the tools and the confidence to face them, conversation by conversation, word by word.